Camera number 371 is the Minolta 9000, and I won't make any apology, but I'm very pleased to have finally acquired this camera after much searching, and managed to pick it up just very recently. And it's quite legendary in the sense that it's one of the first, if not the first, autofocus camera. It's quite a substantial camera, and certainly fitted with the 35mm 105 quite metal construction lens. It really does feel quite substantial. You know after a day out with it that you've indeed had it. The camera takes batteries to operate all its functions, and we place the battery or batteries in the little holder. It just takes two AA batteries. And unfortunately, note to user, some of the 9000s that I've seen, this area here becomes very fragile and gets cracked and broken, which then makes a bit of a problem with placing the battery cradle into the camera. So note to user there, but this one seems to be okay. I suppose worst case scenario is you get a little bit of black tape. I'm not averse to that. But once the batteries are in, the camera can be turned on with its switch, which is rotated, and we can get audio beeps if we so desire, if we like that. I turned that off actually, or turned it off on that occasion. Let's turn it back off, because let's just come back to the front. The lens release, it's the Minolta mount, and we release it by pressing the button, and then we can see the lens. Quite like this lens. It's quite a nice reach, 35mm to 105, but also it benefits from a macro function as well. But that's more about that another time. Let's come back to the camera. Not very much on the front, really, I suppose. Having said that, we have a remote control port here, which I did actually use and found that very useful. It's a plug-in and sort of electronic cable release. Our focus mode, autofocus or manual focus switch. And then we have a lever here which can be used to change aperture when we're in aperture priority mode or when we're in manual mode. Nothing on the other side really. Yes, there is, beg your pardon. There is a little lever here which folds down and then acts as a preview button for the lens. I presume it's an automatic one, although it does look mechanical. There we go, and then that pops back up. One of the features of this camera I do like is it's just well made, and just everything's in the right place, or that I'm used to. So that always encourages good photography mode, doesn't it, when you're comfortable with a camera. Turning to the top plate, we have on the left hand side here our metering modes: average, spot metering, and then two meter modes, highlight and shadows, that will look after the highlights and the shadows. Just below that, an ISO button. Although there's DX coding in the camera, we can choose or override that by pressing that and then rotating the little dial. I think it's around here. It doesn't seem to want to, I think it's that one. Doesn't seem to want to work at the moment. Not quite sure whether we have to put a film in, possibly. Rewind crank also is in the button, which I'm not sure I like very much. In fact, I don't really like this rewind crank, because I have to lift it out and then it articulates, which is guaranteed to break, but then, you know, it's still working. And then we also have to unlock, just here, slide the unlock button, and then we can pull it out, and then that actually allows us to put our film in. So quite a number of functions and quite a number of points of failure there, I feel. But, you know, hey, it's working. So DX coding, as I say, there. Just looking at the viewfinder, we have a diopter adjustment there if we're eyes or spectacle wearer, and then a viewfinder blind for perhaps nighttime or astrophotography. Auto exposure lock where your thumb is, that's good. There is another button there which actually I shall have to look at that in the manual to see what that is. I shall come back in a moment. Right, so I've discovered it's a multiple exposure button, which I didn't realise. If I'd have known that, or if I'd have read the manual, then I could have used that. Not to worry. A good excuse to use the camera again, because it was a very nice experience, I must say. I don't want to sound too gushing, but it was a good experience. Although it's auto exposure, it did catch me out a couple of times when I was trying to take a photograph and it wouldn't. It's because I didn't wind the film on. You kind of, because you've got autofocus, you tend to link auto advance of film as well, but it's not, it's manual focus. Our shutter button, which should work. There we go. But it's not. Maybe there's a reason for that. It is flashing. Right, now that's interesting. Yes, I did encounter this a couple of times and the camera seemed to lock up. Don't know whether that's a fault or whether that's batteries. I'm not entirely certain. I should take the batteries out. This is real world photography here. Yes, I did encounter that a couple of times when the camera didn't operate. See, now it operates. So I don't know whether that's a fault of this camera or whether it's just age. I'm really not quite sure. But as I say, I did encounter that problem a few times. It would flash the dial, liquid crystal display. So good that it happened there, because it tells you what could potentially happen with this camera. So shutter actuation, film advance, film counter. We have a self timer. Let's just activate that. And then you can see the little red light and the audio beep. About 10 seconds, I believe. There we go. Quite a satisfying shutter sound, I must say. All of these things together really contribute to a very enjoyable experience. But I won't keep using that expression. Sorry, I'll stop that. We have a selection of modes here: aperture priority, manual, shutter priority, program. I did try pretty much all of them. When we're in shutter priority, the shutter dial here, or this switch, allows us to change our shutter. There we go. And then the camera will respond by changing the shutter speed and aperture. Okay, I think that's pretty much it. Hot shoe. Turning to the base of the camera, we mentioned the cradle for the batteries. We have a motor wind for our motor wind. Our release that allows us to rewind our film, which is done manually, of course, and tripod mount. Yeah, so for this port here, I really don't. I presume it must be connected with the motor wind, because I can't find anything in the manual. So if anyone can shed any light, then please do. So there we go. That's a brief overview of the Minolta 9000 AF. If you want to find out how it actually operates in real life, if you like, or the real world, then please take a look at my other video, Location to the Darkroom with the Minolta 9000.